first of all, thank you very much for joining me. I do appreciate the time you're taking out. You're going to leave this webinar with an overview of some of the consumer behaviour and trends that are going to emerge post-COVID. Of course, they are just forecasts and estimates and guesses, but they're based on some research and some evidence. So there'll be an overview of that. And then how these changes will potentially impact on your business. Now, we're talking about consumer behavior, but if you are a business-to-business operator, it's still relevant because you ultimately need to understand your customer's customer, and they may well be consumers. So it's very, very important to understand what the trends will be. And then once we understand those trends and how your business, how they will impact on your business, how you can use the next 90 days to make your business more resilient and prosperous. 90 days is a good period of time to get things done. And if we're looking at it from now, we will be out of lockdown by then, and we'll be starting to try and get back to normal as much as normal can be. And there's going to be a lot of questions as to how businesses will behave and how consumers will behave, whether they be business consumers or consumer consumers. Okay, so before I get started, a little bit about me. I'm a business owner. I have a company called Blue Wren. It is software and it's a website company based in Winkley Square. We were lucky enough to win Digital Business of the Year at the Red Rose Awards. We have 14 staff and we're 10 years old. We are productivity and process improvement specialists. That's what we do. We build software to help process and help productivity. And we have undergone quite a significant change pre-COVID already, because we looked at our own business model and thought it wasn't fit for purpose. And a lot of the decisions that we made in our business are very relevant to other businesses now, particularly in COVID, but also in around looking at how they become more resilient and more secure when things change. So that's a bit about me. Okay, so what's going to happen when we emerge from lockdown? Now, there's been quite a bit of research, quite a bit of speculation as to what's going to happen, but I've come across some research and I've done quite a good trawl, and Ernst & Young have done the Future Consumer Index, and this is the source of the information, and they believe that, or they're forecasting that consumers will be split into 5 different segments post-COVID. Get back to normal, cautiously extravagant, stay frugal, keep cutting, and back with a bang. Now, if you believe the press, it's all doom and gloom. It's going to be a recession, which we accept it will be a recession, but there are still opportunities out there. Consumers are all different, and there will be business opportunities, whether the press say there are or not. There's things out there. So it's a good idea to understand what these segments might do and how they might behave. So getting back to normal, or get to normal. They're the largest segment, nearly a third of the population. So their spending has largely been unchanged. Yes, they have been impacted by lockdown. Their behaviours and their activities have been impacted. Of course they have. But in terms of daily life, it's never been that affected, other than what's been imposed upon them by the government. And they've been the least concerned about the pandemic overall. These are the ones that you see bragging about the time they've had to focus on education and training, learning things and getting back to nature and slowing down. They want to now return to how they were. Then you've got your cautiously extravagant. Now, this is a bit of a surprise. It was a surprise for me that there is a segment out there, a quarter of the population, who actually are quite optimistic, even though they know that a global recession is probably going to come. They're middle to high income. They have cut back spending during the crisis. However, they have a disposable income that they can now spend. and they're going to spend it on areas that are important to them. So that might be on hospitality, it might be, in this case, you know, whilst they've been on lockdown, it's probably been on alcohol, being locked at home. But there will be an income that they will want to spend. Then you've got another proportion, nearly a quarter, and these are the stay frugal, and these are they're spending slightly less. There's going to be some deep cuts that they've had to make, and so as they come out of lockdown, they may have been made redundant, or they may be, you know, trying to get back on their feet, and it's hit them pretty bad. So there will be a watchful period of time on their finances, and if you believe what you see in the sort of everyday press, this is the segment of the population that seems to be the most prevalent. Well, actually, according to the research, it's not. It's about a quarter. So there's three of the segments. The other two segments keep cutting. These are the ones that are the hardest hit. They're going to be the least educated. They're the least likely to be working. They're having to make some real, you know, deep spending cuts. They've been really badly affected. They're going to change what they buy and how they buy it, and it was always going to be a huge worry of the pandemic. They might be in part of the gig economy, and that had just dried up, and there's no sort of security to fall back on. So that you know, even though there's 13%, that's quite a big chunk of the population, of the working population, that is going to really suffer as a result of what's happened. And then you've got 10% back with a bang. Younger, they're in work, they're spending more in all categories. These are the ones that, you know, their lives were really disrupted at the time, but now they're ready to come out and be positive, and they're optimistic. They're young, world's their oyster, and they're gonna give it a shot. So again, there is some opportunity there as well, if that's one of the segments. Now, if you're a business to business customer, and I know that, hi Gavin, I know you've just joined us. I know that you are. Some of your businesses are business to business. This will have an impact, because we operate in a consumer economy, and we are all consumers. So if at home we are cutting back, if we're choosing to spend less, that will filter into what we do in our business lives. If we're business owners, and we are supplying other businesses who are, you know, likewise have got consumers that are cutting back, that will have an impact as well. So it's a good idea just to be aware of that sort of behaviour and those segments, and how that sort of might relate to your business and what you choose to do as we emerge from COVID-19. So some other trends. So this source is from Kantar's COVID-19 barometer, and out of this research, and it's global research, but it does sort of filter down or cut down into regions, i.e. countries. There's three big trends that they believe will come out of COVID-19, and these trends are quite important when we start to consider how we operate as a business. I know that in my business, that's exactly what we're thinking about, and how we would then adjust what we do in order to deal with the new environment that we operate in. So the first one is that there's a new wave of digital shoppers. So e-commerce as a way of purchasing in terms of retail is forecast to outstrip traditional retail this year. But in addition to e-commerce, there are more purchases going online, whether they be business-to-business purchases, training, education. These are moving online out of necessity. But when we move out of lockdown, they will continue in some form or another to maintain that sort of rise of increasing digital or online transactions. We've seen in our business that the ability to transact over digital digital channels has been has been a godsend to us. We've been able to continue our business operations because of not just the facility of us being able to do it, but also the acceptance of our customers who are prepared to do it themselves. So there's a new wave of digital shoppers. There's going to be an extended period of frugalism. Sorry about that stupid word, but people are going to be more frugal for more often. So about 45% of households will have seen an income fall over the period. Now, there will be an increase in unemployment and redundancies. So people will be tightening their belts. There will be a recession. There will be a focus on doing more with less, and being efficient, whether that be within a business context or in a personal context, saving money. That'll be quite a popular and quite a key part of people's lives. So be aware of that, and think about how your business might capitalize on that need for frugalism. And then the third one is around localism. Localism becoming mainstream. Now, localism is not just about buying local food, but it's things like getting a local supply chain, having visibility and control of your supply chain, have multiple suppliers, and buying locally as well, and using local services. Now, as a small business, ourselves and yourselves as well, that's a huge opportunity for us, because we can be that local alternative to many competitors out there. So 65% of people that were surveyed in this research said they are in favour of buying goods and services locally. Food security will move up the agenda. So food security is something that farmers have been banging on about for years. And for those that aren't aware of it, it's about feeding your own population, i.e. not having to import food, and having a secure source of food in sort of times of crisis like we've just had. So there will be a focus around food security, but also just around localism. Support your local, whether that be your local. I'm a trustee for a hospice. Support and maintain the local hospice, or support your local services. So again, those three consumer trends will influence how you operate in your business, and you should be considering them as we start to move out of lockdown. I mean, the reason that you are on this webinar and you're taking the time to think about these things is because you're not giving up, you're not contracting to the point of closing your businesses down or buckling, or battening down the hatches. You're looking at the opportunities, and you're looking at how your business can become more resilient and can prosper in the new post-lockdown environment. So these things are really, really relevant. And if the businesses that are thinking about it now will get a head start and be able to capitalize on them and to take the opportunities, but also to secure the future for themselves and for their business. So I've talked about the trends, and I've talked about the consumer segments. What do we now? Let's turn our attention inwards and to look at your businesses. How will these influence what you do in your business, and which areas of your business? So the first one we should think about is your business model. Now, in my business, we looked at our business model not because of COVID-19. We looked at it a couple of years ago, but we recognized what we were doing was putting our business at risk. And that was because we were incurring a lot of cost every time we got a new sale. So our profits plateaued whilst our revenue increased. So we adjusted our business model. Now, the same thing has happened to many, many businesses in the current environment. So ask yourself a couple of questions about your business. What are your channels to market? Are you going direct to your customers? Can you look at alternative ways of accessing your customers, whether they be through a third party, whether they can be through a partner, whether they can be as a network? So look at your channels to market and think about that. Have you got multiple channels to market? Because if you don't, you then are exposing yourself. Becoming a little less reliant on new business. Many service-based businesses need to win a certain proportion of new business every single month to maintain a level of income in order to pay their overheads. You need to move away from that, because look what's just happened. Demand has dropped off a cliff. And that can happen again. So you do not want to expose your business in the same way. So can you become less reliant on winning new business? And of course, everyone has to win new business, but are there opportunities to maintain existing customer relationships, upsell to existing customers? build up more build up other products that you can sell to your existing customer base. And then look at recurring income streams. This is sort of the utopia for many businesses, but can you get up a recur? So is there a retainer if you're a service-based business? Could you bundle something together and sell it, a service package, a check-in, a maintenance package, or maintenance service, whatever it may be? Think about, can we get up a recurring income stream? Not only does that take the pressure off getting new business and winning new work every month, it also builds value in your business, because you know that there's a set amount coming in, and from outside, in terms of if you need to generate investment or you're looking to exit, that is a very strong indicator for a successful business. And then obviously service and product delivery. How are you delivering your service? Now, I spoke about how we, as in our business, we've been able to sell and deliver our product, which is a software solution to help businesses with their workflow or their CRM. We've been able to deliver that remotely. So we've been able to maintain a remote sales force. So we've been able to demonstrate it online. We've been able to set a proposal and send that online. We've been able to take payment online. We've been able to demo it. We've been able to trial it. We need to hand it over, and it's all been done remotely. But we couldn't. Historically, we would be doing face to face. Likewise, a training and events business. If you're doing training, many businesses need to move their training online. They can't hold, training courses anymore because of the social distancing requirements. Education. My kids are learning remotely. So think about how you might deliver your services without the need in the new environment, and whether they can be one, it can be more cost effective because you're not having to travel, and likewise it might be necessary because actually they don't want to see you, and therefore to operate you need to think about alternatives. So there's some business model questions to deal with and to think about in your business. The other area which is going to be really important is your value proposition. Now, this is what, in terms of value proposition, what I mean by that is how you make yourself distinctive from your competition, and how you make yourself valuable in the eyes of your customers. So your value proposition will need to change more than likely, I would say, because think about your customers, think about the change in their circumstances. And if you're talking about growth, if you're talking about success and financial growth and success, it might not be the case anymore to your customers. They might be thinking more about resilience and security and safety. Just consider what Boost Lancashire have done. They were all about growth, weren't they? And now, because of COVID-19, they're talking about ask for help. So it's around supporting and making businesses more resilient. They're now moving into a new phase of their value proposition. They're still providing the same specific service, which is around business support, but they're doing it and they're making their message slightly different, and their value proposition is slightly different. So look at yours. Look for new opportunities. Are there new opportunities to do what you do to sell to new customers? Many customers, many businesses are very good in terms of the manufacturing side of things. They've moved into manufacturing for the healthcare sector. Look at the sectors that are booming and see whether, or that are growing, and see whether there are opportunities to continue to doing exactly the same thing of what you're doing in terms of your service delivery, but positioning it or packaging it slightly different. Evaluate your marketing channels. Are you marketing in the right way, in the right channels? So that could be if you did a lot of sponsorship and events. Well, they're not going to exist anymore, are they? Or they're going to exist in a very different way. So think about your marketing channels and how you're reaching your customers with a relevant value proposition. And of course, look at your marketing messages. I mean, those that have watched television, and I'm sure we all have because we've been in lockdown, if you ever come across some of the ads that are out there, you'll see there's a very common theme to these ads. They've tweaked these marketing messages very quickly, whether it be Coca-Cola, AXA Insurance, nationwide bank, you always see some soft music, you see families spending time together, you see some rain on the pavement, and to say getting back or slowing down, we're here for you. They're selling effectively, they're tapping into the emotion of the customer, of the situation, and almost playing back to the customer their own life, but then trying to associate their brand with that customer. So you obviously in your businesses, television advertising might not be an option, but think about what's going to be relevant to your customers and what are they going to be looking for. Are you going to be the reliable local supplier? Yeah, that's not going to be gone with the wind effectively because you've been here for 20 years and you've got that security and that track record. Or are you going to be something else which is going to be of value? Are you going to provide that security or that reliability that businesses might be looking for, rather than that excitement or that value, that growth opportunity that they might have been thinking about in the past? So as your value proposition, and the other area to look at is your process and operations. Now this will obviously be a necessity, because as you have looked at your business operations, no doubt you've had to think about protecting costs or reducing costs in some way. I know that we have in our business, and it's been common across other businesses as well. So how can you improve the way that you do what you do more with less effectively? There's a couple of areas to think about. Supply chains is a big one. How are you reliant on specific or individual suppliers? Are you too reliant on them? Do you need to spread your supply chain a little bit in order to protect yourself from any further disruption? So do you need to make it local? Are you relying on imports, or are you relying on organisations that don't necessarily value you as a customer? Your process, this is really important. You have to do more with less. The way that you do more with less is you look at your process and you improve the way that you do things to cut out waste. So map your processes, look at how you can automate things and cut out additional manual intervention, because you may have to deal with it in a way which requires less people, for example, because you don't have that luxury of employing more people because of your current financial situation. So process improvement is going to have a big impact on what you do in the future. And systems. What systems do you have? Are they fit for purpose? If you are trying to do more with less, you need to think about the systems that you have that they get in the way. A lot of small businesses live off Excel spreads and email. Now that isn't necessarily going to help you make yourself more efficient, because it becomes very labor intensive. Another thing is, if you're trying to get more out of your existing customer base, have you got a CRM system? Are you able to nurture those customers? Do you know the relationship that you have with those customers and manage it better? And these sorts of systems will definitely help make you a more prosperous and resilient in the future. And the final thing I'm going to talk to you about in terms of thinking about your business is of finance. Obviously, this is not a finance talk. I understand that. I mean, it's very, but finance will have a big influence on what you decide to do moving forward. And these are the things that we've looked at ourselves. You obviously have to track finance. You obviously have to look at ways of reducing overhead cost if you can. But at the same time, in order to be resilient and to grow and to prosper in the current environment, you can't keep cutting. You can only cut so far. You can't keep contracting. If you contract, you become nothing eventually. And so the things to do are to look at the runway. Now, runway is how much money you have left in terms of operating your business. Now we look at a runway and we try to estimate what we've got left in terms of income and pipeline, as well as cash. So cash flow is really, really important. It's really important to us, but we check on that and we monitor it on a monthly basis. It might need to be even more regular, and look at it weekly in order to maintain that financial security, because the finance will dictate some of the decisions that you make, and I'll come on to that in a sec as to why. Also look at forecasts. Forecasting may or may not have been part of your business in the past. You might have done it on an annual basis, said like, okay, we did 500,000 pounds this year, make a 20% increase, yeah, and that's it. So we'll go for 600,000 pounds. Forecasting now has to be more razor sharp. It has to be more regular. We reforecast every month in order to maintain and understand our runway. It's a volatile environment. It's a volatile economy. Things are happening and changing all the time, and you need to be adapting to that all the time. And it doesn't necessarily mean keep cutting, but what it does do, it allows you to know and understand what your financial position is in order to make some of the big decisions that you need to make. And then the final thing is you can make those decisions, which is around investment or cutback or start to pause. So a lot of marketing spend has been cut back in COVID, but as we emerge from this, is it the right to cut or to keep marketing spend where it is, i.e. zero? You might need to think about investing in marketing spend, but understand why and what you're going to do with that investment, and understand what you expect to get from it as well. So I've looked now at the consumer trends and the customer segments, so the environment that we've got. We've turned our focus and looked at your business and the key areas that you would want to consider in terms of making yourselves more resilient and more prosperous. And that is a business model, that is value proposition, that is process and operations, and that's finance. So it's covered a large proportion of the business. So what do you do in the next 90 days? Because it's all very well throwing ideas. Ideas are cheap. In fact, ideas are free. And when the problem you get with consultants is they'll throw about 1,000 ideas. You already had those yourself. It's not giving me any help with what you're going to actually do. How do you implement them? And I know from our business perspective, ideas are easy. It's how we put them into practice and how we make and follow them through to make sure that what we do and the changes that we make have an impact on our business. So we focus on 90-day periods. We follow ourselves, the Traction model, which is the entrepreneurial operating system. Now that is, I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to talk about it at a sort of basic level, but some of these are the principles from it. And this is all you'll need to do if this is what you're thinking about as well in terms of what you might do in the next 90 days. So first thing, list the big activities that needed to make your business more resilient and prosperous. Now, go through business model, go through value proposition, go through process and operations and finance. What are the things here? And you'll know about different things that you need to change. It might be things that you've always had in the back of your mind that you need to do something about. A lot of that is a down process, or we've never got round to improving our process, or we need an e-commerce website. We recognize that it has to happen now. We need to move some of our operation online. You'll have these ideas, list them, make a list of big activities, and get people involved in the business if you wish, if there are people in the business, or if it's just yourself. And then score each of them based on their impact, or their forecast or estimated impact, and the level of investment. So I've done a little graph as an example. Here you go. So here's a bit of activities that you think actually in the next 90 days, if we did all these, it'd be massive. But okay, let's start to map them against impact and investment. And we can see there that e-commerce website is going to have the biggest impact, near enough, but it's going to require the most investment, or equal most investment. But this is not science. This is just helping you prioritize. So it's going to be very subjective, and it's going to be specific to your business. So you will make the decision as to how much impact it's going to deliver and how much investment is required. But I'm giving you an example there. So new local suppliers, not a hell of a lot of investment, but it might have a bit of impact. Online proposals, no investment, very little impact. Map processes, more impact, not very much investment. You can see what I'm talking about there. And it just gives you mapping out everything to see, actually, I've got this list, this to-do list. There's no way I can do it all in 90 days. What are the things that are most important to us? What's going to be the things that are going to deliver the biggest impact based on what I believe to be the priorities of the business. So you sort them, you've mapped them, and then you choose the top 3 or to 6, depending on the resource that's available in your organization, because you've got to do the business as usual. You've got to carry on with doing the day job. But if you're trying to move and transition your business into something that is more resilient and more prosperous, you need to choose 3 big things that you're going to get done in that 90-day period. And you've got to then start to break them out as to what is involved in actually achieving those activities, and find what success looks like. So if it's an e-commerce website, what an e-commerce website that is live, that is trading and is selling a proportion of your offer, and whether that be making 10 grand a month or 5 grand a month, you want to know what it looks like in order to evaluate whether it's a success or not. Then you want to create something like a Kanban board to track your progress. So it's all very well saying, right, these are the things I'm going to get done, or team, these are the things we're going to get done, but it's really, really important to keep track of them and to monitor them on a weekly basis. That's exactly what we do. And so we set, now the traction model calls them rocks, but effectively they're 3 big things or 6 big things, whatever they are, but they're the 90-day targets. We're going to get this done in 90 days. And then every week we're building out the things in order to deliver those. And we're saying, what are we doing in that week in order to fulfill them? And what that does, it gives you a razor sharp focus. It stops you being distracted on other big things to do, because there's no point starting 12 things and getting nothing done. And that's unfortunately what many businesses and many people do. They'll have a big to-do list and they'll start them all and they'll be really excited, but they'll never finish them. It's much more, there's going to be much far better impact. It's going to be far more rewarding, and you're going to become a much more resilient and prosperous business if you keep to a smaller number of things and do them till they're complete. So you want to build a Kanban board, something like this. This is Trello as an example, but I've said here we go. So the next 90 days, I've identified that the 3 things I'm going to get done, the things that are going to deliver the greatest impact. So CRM software, a marketing campaign, and an e-commerce website. I've identified those in my business as the most important things that are going to deliver the greatest level of impact. So first column, these are the rocks that would be called in a traction model, but effectively this is what success looks like. In a subscription model, create a subscription model for an existing service to generate recurring income. What does that look like? Then you start to break that down in your to-do list. Then you've got CRM software, implement CRM software to improve the value of existing customer relationships and attract new business inquiry opportunities. And then the third one is a marketing campaign. Implement a marketing campaign to communicate a new value proposition, but focused on business resilience. So they're my key things that I'm going to deliver in the next 90 days. And now I'm splitting them out into a to-do list. In order to achieve those, what does that look like? Well, I'll need to review and agree what my value proposition is. I need a marketing plan. I'll need to recruit a marketing partner. I'll need to implement it, etc. I need to measure it. So I start to build out all these stories, all these tasks, and I put them in a backlog, in a to-do list, and that's what this is. And then I prioritize that to-do list as what's most important goes to the top. And then this is what I'm working on this week. And these are the things that I'm focusing on, and I've got a razor sharp focus that I will deliver those until they are done. And then my idea is to move them into done. So I've already created a service and product bundle for my subscription model. I'm now briefing the sales team on what that bundle is. And then once that's done, that's going to move into done, and I'm going to pull in the next story, which is related to the subscription model, and that will be marketing materials to support the sales activity. So this is then splitting out what needs to get done in order to meet your objectives for those 90 days. But you can see the pattern we've gone through. We've looked at the research, we've understood what the environment is and what the situation is in the environment. We've then moved into the business and looked at it internally and said, right, okay, based on this new normal, this new trading environment, how are we going to change our business to make ourselves more prosperous and more resilient? Okay, we need to deliver, or we need to hit a couple of things which are going to give us capture some opportunities, or mitigate some of the risks. And we know that going online, e-commerce, CRM, process improvement, all these things, which actually probably relevant before COVID-19, even more relevant now. And to split out and look at what is involved in terms of delivering it. And then we have a razor sharp focus. We do not get distracted. Those other things will come. They'll come in the following 90 days. We want to make sure that we're implementing the three things that are going to deliver the greatest impact. And that will be, in this case, a subscription model, CRM software, and a marketing campaign. But it might be something different. But that is really, in a nutshell, it's not complicated. It's just you need to have discipline. You need to have be organized in a way, and you need a routine or set up a process that allows you to monitor it and see it through to the end. Because really, this is going to be fundamental to the survival and to the success of businesses going forward. So, thank you very much for listening. Some additional resources. If you want to get a bit more of background on the research, that's the link to the McKinsey survey. The Ernst Young research is also available. You just type in EY Consumer Index, and then there's the COVID-19 barometer, the 3 consumer trends defining the next new normal. So thank you very, very much for listening. I hope you have found that of benefit.